Well, hi there and welcome to a very cold home firth. Let me tell you a little bit about a lovely little children's book called Making Heartbread. Now, the story of the book begins with Rachel, a young girl who's learning from her grandmother how to make bread. The grandmother tells Rachel about tummy bread, which fills our tummies, and heart bread, which fills our hearts. And she goes on to tell her that when she was a little girl, she lived in Europe during the war. She lost both her parents and she lost her home, becoming homeless and as a result, very hungry. Eventually, she was taken into a refugee home and she found the adults there were loving and they were kind. But the thing was that she and a lot of the other children just couldn't sleep at night. And they couldn't sleep because they couldn't forget that they'd been homeless and hungry. They were afraid that one day exactly the same thing might happen again. So one of the adults had an idea, and this was to give each of the children a piece of bread to hold on to at bedtime. And with this bread in their hands, the children remembered this: I ate today and I will eat again tomorrow. The grandmother says that holding the bread, all of the children were able to sleep in peace at night. Now, that story helpfully points us to an old Christian practice called the prayer of examen. It's a thankfulness prayer idea which was created by the 16th century Spanish priest Ignatius of Loyola. And it's been practiced by followers of Jesus all over the world ever since. Some of you might have been to Be Still sessions in the past and experienced this, and you still can because the video is available on the Community of Soul Friends website. And in fact, the evening prayer is based on the examen too on that website. There's a video there or a sheet to download if you'd like to. But the basic idea is that at the end of each day, or some people prefer the beginning of the day, we review the previous 24 hours. We think about what we've experienced, who we've met, what we've done, the things that we've said, and the things that we've heard. And as we think about these things, we ask ourselves some questions. When did I feel most alive this past day? Where did I feel the most joy? When did I feel most connected to God? And then we give thanks to Him for those things. And we also ask other questions like, where did I feel most anxious or frustrated or even angry? Where did I feel most disconnected from God and even disconnected from the person that I myself want to be? We then offer those things to God in prayer and we let them go, trusting them to Him and looking ahead to a new day to come. Thinking about how God has fed us physically, emotionally, mentally and spiritually is like holding bread in our hands. It's as if we're saying, God has fed me today, He's given me what I need today, and He will do it again tomorrow. When we feel gratitude, we feel loved, and we're more likely to sleep better, just like the children in the story. So what we're doing in practicing regular gratitude is actually something we can carry into the whole of our lives. Whenever we experience something that's good, we'll begin to say to ourselves, this is something that I can use when I pray, a bit later when I do the examen. But we'll also learn to savour the moment. When we become people who give thanks for what's happened in the past, we'll also become people who can learn to appreciate the present moment too. Now, of course, this isn't rocket science, is it? This is something that human beings have long since recognised. For example, the ancient Greek philosopher Epictetus said, "He is wise who does not grieve for things he has not, but rejoices for things he has. Scientific research shows that living with a thankful attitude actually helps our mental and physical health. It can increase our happiness by 25% and help us sleep better. Thankful people, it says, are healthier physically, mentally and emotionally. So it's certainly something worth exploring, isn't it? There was a practice amongst Jews of Jesus' day called the 18 benedictions, and they believed that our hearts could be trained in gratitude. Now, beni means good and diction means word. Good word. The idea was that when Jews got up in the morning, they'd thank God for 18 things. They'd do the same in the middle of the day and then the same at the end of the day, in the evening. And they believed that this habit, and that's what it is, a habit, did actually change them. Again, scientific research shows that practices like this can indeed rewire our brain, and it can help us to think differently. And of course, in turn, that affects our mental state and our emotions in a really positive and helpful way. Research also shows that even 5 minutes of gratitude a day can make a huge difference to our mental and to our emotional state. So, you see, in so many things, developing healthy habits really can make a big difference to our lives. Imagine with me for a moment that you're looking for a new car and you're wondering about getting a red Mini. You're thinking about buying it, but you're just not sure. And then as you go about your day, you begin to notice red Minis everywhere. Now, it's not as if the Mini dealership has deliberately flooded the streets with red Minis that day just to try to get you to buy one. The truth is, here's what's happening. Your mind is primed to think about them, and so you begin to notice them more. It's the way our brains work. It's something you're thinking about, and so we're more aware of it. And exactly the same can be said about gratitude. When we're looking for things to be thankful for, we see more of them. When we're looking for positive things regularly, then we will notice them more often. It's not that they're necessarily happening more often than they were before. It's just that that kind of habit makes us more aware that those things are indeed happening in our lives, and maybe that they're happening more often than we think. So learning to be thankful really and truly can make us more aware of the good things in our lives, and in turn lead to improved mental and emotional well-being. Of course, part of what it means to be a follower of Jesus is to learn to recognise the good gifts, the good things that we receive from God, and to give thanks to him for those things. St. Paul knew this, as his letter to the Philippians clearly shows. Remember, this was written when he was locked up in prison. Read Acts chapter 16 alongside his letter to the Philippians, and you'll get the bigger, wider picture. You'll get the context. And it's something that's clear throughout the Bible, isn't it? It was clear in the life of Jesus, clear in the life of the early Christians. They were thankful people, and they were all the better for being thankful people. I wonder if you've ever noticed that when you're saying thank you to someone for something in particular, they tend to lean in a little bit more. They'll perhaps make more eye contact with you. I know that's harder to experience at the moment with social distancing and with lockdown and so on. But if you think back to those times, the truth is that when you're praising someone, when you're saying thank you, they are savouring those words of praise and thankfulness that you are giving to them. If you've not noticed it, maybe notice it next time you are being thankful to someone or praising them. Notice how much more open they are to you when you are giving that kind of feedback to them. Now, even though we know God is everywhere, the Bible tells us, for example, in Psalm 22, verse 3, that God mysteriously inhabits the praises of his people. So when we think about God, when we praise him, when we're thankful to him, he feels closer to us. As we draw closer to God then, enjoying his presence, we will, bit by bit, be transformed. Maybe too, this can lead us to seeing life as much more of a gift rather than something that we feel that we're entitled to. Maybe as we learn to see that our lives themselves are actually a gift from God, we're less likely to grab and grasp at things with a sense of entitlement. Maybe we're more likely to find ourselves inspired to live more joyfully, more thankfully. And maybe we're more likely to find a sense of peace too. And so, as we've seen with spiritual practices like the Examine and many others, and as we've seen with physical things too, forming a habit is a really healthy thing to do. If you go to the gym just once, we're not going to get any fitter. You're probably just going to wake up the next morning feeling a little bit sore. If you go for a long run once or twice, you're not going to be fitter, you're just going to be tired. And achy, no doubt too. But if you stick with it, if you keep exercising over a longer period of time, then your body will change. And so it is when we give thanks to God. If we develop this habit, if we develop this rhythm, if you like, then over time, we will find that we will change for the better. We'll become more grateful, more content, maybe even more joyful as we become more and more connected with God. And that, my friends, is an essential part of all our well-being. May that become your experience too. Amen. Seemed like a good idea to record outside today. I'm freezing. God bless you all.